The first thing Adam checked every morning was his pocket. He didn't do it out of hope. It was just a habit, a muscle memory from a time when hope was still a possibility. Empty. Of course it was empty. He sat up on the edge of the narrow, lumpy bed, his feet finding the cold, grimy floor. The room smelled of dust, dampness, and old paint, a permanent scent that clung to his clothes and his skin. Above him, the ceiling fan creaked, each rotation a slow, tired sigh, as if it was just as exhausted with its existence as he was. Outside the grimy window, the city was already alive. The distant hum of traffic, the faint shouts, the relentless energy of a world rushing to places that had never saved him a seat. Adam pushed himself to his feet, a slow, deliberate movement. His bones ached with a weariness that felt ancient, far older than his 20-something years. He shuffled to the corner where a cracked sink hung precariously from the wall. Splashing cold water on his face, he stared at his reflection in the shard of a mirror propped against the wall. The face that stared back was a stranger's, hollowed out by hardship. Thin cheeks, eyes that held a permanent exhaustion, a canvas the world painted over without a second glance. "Not today," he whispered, the words barely a sound. He didn't know what he meant by it, but it was a ritual, a small act of defiance against the crushing weight of another empty day. Hunger wasn't a sharp pain anymore. It had dulled into a constant, gnawing ache in his stomach, a familiar companion. He stepped out onto the street, pulling his thin jacket tighter, though there was no chill in the air. People bustled past him, a river of clean clothes and determined faces. Their conversations drifted over him like a foreign language, words like meetings, profits, promotions, plans, expensive words from a world he only witnessed from the outside. While they rushed toward gleaming office buildings and futures filled with promise, Adam walked in the opposite direction. He headed toward the factories, the sprawling markets, the parts of the city where hope was a commodity, paid for daily and fired without warning. He paused in front of a bakery, the warm, sweet smell of fresh bread a physical blow. It was a scent from another life, a memory of a time before the emptiness. He could almost taste it, and for a moment the ache in his stomach sharpened into a painful cramp. Inside, through the clean glass, he saw the owner glance up at him, a flicker of recognition, and then an immediate, deliberate shift of his gaze. The owner looked away, busying himself with a tray of pastries. Adam didn't bother going in. He didn't need to ask. He knew the answer was no, and he turned away before the man's inevitable pity could reach his face. Pride was a flimsy shield, but it was the last thing he owned. He wouldn't let them take that too. By noon, the sun was a merciless hammer in the sky, beating down on the cracked pavement. But Adam felt cold, a deep internal chill that the heat couldn't touch. He found a spot of shade against a brick wall and sat down, pulling the few coins from his pocket. He laid them out on his palm and counted. Not enough for a meal, not enough for a bus ticket to somewhere new, not enough for anything that mattered. As he stared at the useless metal, a memory surfaced, unbidden, his father's voice, rough but firm from a time long ago. "A man is not poor when he has nothing, Adam. He is poor only when he accepts it." The words echoed in the silence of his mind. Adam slowly closed his fist, the edges of the coins digging into his skin. He hadn't accepted it, not yet. The fire hadn't gone out completely. And then, in the haze of the afternoon, it happened. A black car, sleek and silent, pulled up to the curb just a few feet away from him. It was jarringly out of place, too clean for this grimy street, its quiet presence an intrusion. The tinted rear window glided down with a soft whir. Inside, a man in a perfectly tailored dark suit sat calmly, his gaze level and unreadable. There was no hurry in his posture, no wasted movement. He belonged to that other world, the world of expensive words and silent, powerful cars. The man's eyes met Adam's. "Do you want work?" he asked. The voice was even devoid of emotion. Adam didn't answer right away. He'd heard this question before, usually followed by a scam or an impossible task for pennies. It was the sound of lies dressed up as opportunity, but this was different. There was no false kindness in the man's voice, no condescending charity. It wasn't cruel either, it was just certain. As if the man was stating a fact, not making an offer. Adam slowly got to his feet, brushing the dust from his worn-out jeans. "What kind of work?" he asked, his own voice raspy from disuse. A small, thin smile touched the corners of the man's mouth. It didn't reach his eyes. "The kind of work that changes lives," he said simply. He paused, letting the words hang in the air. "But only if you survive it." The statement was a challenge and a warning, all in one. Adam looked from the man's calm face to the plush interior of the car, then back to the dirty street he was standing on. He thought of the empty pocket, the gnawing hunger, the owner of the bakery looking away. He thought of his father's words. He didn't ask about the pay, he didn't ask about the danger. When you have nothing left to lose, fear suddenly becomes an affordable luxury. "I'll do it," Adam said, the two words feeling more significant than anything he had said in years. The man in the car nodded once, a gesture of finality, and pushed the door open from the inside. As Adam bent down and stepped into the cool, leather-scented interior of the car, the door closing behind him with a solid, definitive thud, he couldn't have known it. This was the last moment of his old life, not because he was on a path to riches and success, but because the desperate, hungry young man he was, the boy who walked out of that dusty room this morning, would not survive what was coming next. A new chapter was beginning, and it would be written in blood, fear, and a currency far more valuable than money. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter.